Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm the GCSE science teacher, and in today's video we're going to be talking about cancer. This is for GCSE biology. If you do enjoy the video, feel free to share it with someone else and like the video. Also, thank you so much if you've recently subscribed. It's great to have you as part of our community. So let's get into it. What actually is cancer? Well, at GCSE you need to know that cancer is defined as uncontrolled cell growth or division. And all cells in our body, except the gametes, the sperm and egg cell, will divide by mitosis. This will lead to two new daughter cells which have the same exact genetic information as the parent cell. However, in the case of cancer, those cells often have lots of changes to their DNA or mutations. And this causes those cells to not function the way they originally would and leads to further problems down the line. So, more cell damage, more problems with the cells that are actually made, and essentially the body stops functioning the way it needs to. Now, what actually increases the risk of someone developing cancer? Because there's actually hundreds of different types of cancer, but some of the key risk factors are as follows. So, we know as scientists that smoking highly increases the risk of cancer. This is smoking cigarettes specifically because of the carcinogens, those toxic chemicals that cause cancer that are found within cigarettes. But also, there's now evidence and research that suggests that vaping can also increase the risk of cancers, but we don't have enough information about it, which is why um, it's quite worrying. A lot of people don't realize the actual health implications with vaping as well. So like I said, anything I talk about in today's video, I'll link the information below if you are interested to learn more. We also know that some cancers, specifically skin cancers, are caused by UV exposure. So because of the ionizing radiation found within the UV light from the sun, it actually damages the DNA and causes those mutations to arise more quickly, which is why actually a lot of tanning beds and sunbeds, things like this, can actually increase the risk of people getting melanomas or skin cancers as well. Like I said about carcinogens, we know of lots of different chemicals that are directly causing cancer. One being asbestos. Asbestos used to be found, or sometimes still is actually found in buildings as an insulating material to keep housing warm or buildings warm. We don't use those anymore for insulation, but some old buildings will still contain asbestos. And of course, genetics. There is also a link with genes. Some people who inherit the BRCA gene, for example, will have an increased risk of breast cancer. And those are just some other things to consider. Sometimes people who have those genes will often get tested. They may even undergo surgery like mastectomies to remove the breast tissue to prevent the breast cancer from forming in the first place. So there's lots of different reasons why cancer can arise. So, in terms of biology, we need to know some vocabulary that will help us understand this topic further. And we need to talk about benign and malignant tumors. At GCSE, you could be expected to compare two different bits of information. One example being compare benign and malignant tumors to one another. And what you need to know is that a tumor essentially is a ball of cells, a group of cells, and they are abnormal. In the case of benign tumors, they are non cancerous because they divide very slowly. They don't invade other parts of the body, and often they will have a membrane around them to prevent them from really moving around. So, in the case of benign tumors, we could think of moles or birthmarks. They don't often change. However, if they do change, healthcare professionals often say to keep an eye on these types of tumors, these benign tumors, especially if they're on the surface of the skin, they're easy to identify. Because if they do change because of, say, UV exposure or environmental factors, it can actually become a malignant tumor. This is a more cancerous tumor. So benign tumors are non-cancerous, but malignant ones are. So malignant tumors are essentially fast dividing. They divide very quickly. They are able to form secondary tumors. So they do this by parts of it breaking off and moving through the bloodstream or the lymphatic system to other parts of the body where they start to rapidly divide again. They do invade neighboring tissues. And as you can see in the diagram there, the cells, as they divide, they kind of bundle up on top of each other. They don't divide in a nice uniform way. And this often is why people who suspect they have a cancer can often feel like a growth. They may have a lump that comes up, and they often can identify that there may be a problem there. So that's the difference that you need to be aware of for GCSE. So I thought I'd mention this now because a lot of the time in lessons, students will ask me whether cancer causes hair loss. And I thought it'd be worth mentioning to yourselves. Um, This is not the case in most cases. Cancer does not cause hair loss. It's the medicines that patients with cancer take that causes the hair loss. For example, chemotherapy drugs, those are medicines that actively destroy rapidly dividing cells. We know, however, that there are healthy cells that rapidly divide in the body. So the cells in our hair, the keratocytes, but also the digestive tract has lots of cells that rapidly divide because of the acid that's found there. So in the stomach, without those cells being able to replenish quickly, the stomach would kind of digest itself. So that's why mitosis occurs so rapidly there. However, that is exactly why patients with cancer who take chemotherapy drugs, they will lose their hair, but also they may feel nauseous and sick, and they may lose weight. And that's because of the cells that are also being damaged in those two areas too. So at GCSE, you need to also be aware of data interpretation specifically for this topic. So you could be given data in a table, you could be shown it in a graphical form like this one, a line graph as well, not just a bar chart. And you could be expected to interpret what this data shows. So in the case here, we've got the percentage of patients which are alive 10 years after the diagnosis versus the different types of cancer. And you can see there's two bits of information that have been plotted here. We've got a diagnosis in 1961 versus a diagnosis from 2001. So pause the video and write down in the comments below, hypothesize, what is your interpretation of this data? What does it tell you? Okay, so hopefully you've got an idea, you've written down in the comments below, and let's talk about the story this data is telling us. Well, it tells us that patients who were diagnosed in 2001, the white bars, they have a higher percentage of being alive. There's more patients that are alive from that diagnosis compared to patients who were diagnosed in 1961. Less patients were alive 10 years after that diagnosis. Now, the reason because of this is the key bit. The reason for this is because there is more information, there's more medical advances, we have more medical treatments to help those patients survive as well. So this is something that you could get asked, and I thought I'd share it with you. Thank you so much for your time today. I've been the GCSE science teacher and you have been curious. If you did enjoy the video, feel free to give it a like, share the video and subscribe. Thank you so much if you already have. In the meantime, have a fantastic day. If you want more videos and content from me, I do have an Instagram and a TikTok. All of it is at the GCSE science teacher, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. Bye.